Hello everybody, this is Paige from Paperbacks and Lattes, and today I will be telling you the books on my October wrap-up. So I read 20 books for the month of October. I had 15 5-star reads. I had 3 4-star reads, and I had 2 3-star reads. So I usually don't go below a 3. If it's less than a 3, I just DNF it. And I did not DNF any books this month. So I had a great reading month. I usually average about 20 to 22 books per month now. That is just how much that I have been getting read lately, but I still consider it a great reading month. So let's go ahead and start with the books that I read, and I do them in order from the first to the last. So the first book I read is Shelter for Sophie by Susan Stoker. I read this one for the Kindle Clear Out Readathon. I rated it 5 stars. This is about Sophie and Roman. Roman is a firefighter, and he meets Sophie because he moves in next door, and so they are neighbors, and they just don't ever really talk to each other until she mows his lawn. And he just kind of throws a $20 bill at her and said, you know, tell your boyfriend or husband or whatever to keep mowing my lawn, and here's some money for it. Which she's kind of offended at. It's just her, and she did it, you know, just to be nice. And then he overhears her at the bar talking with some of her friends about what she does at her work, and he totally misunderstands it, and he thinks she's taking advantage of people. So he gets really mad at her, and she just kind of tells him to research it and actually investigate and do the actual work of trying to figure out what she does for her work instead of just, you know, making an assumption. So that's what he does. He goes and talks to the people that she helps, and he actually realizes that her and her company actually help people who have been like burn victims, that have been burned greatly in a fire, and their company helps. They're doing an experimental like skin grafts, and so they help these people heal quickly and better for free. So they're actually doing marvelous work, and he realizes that, and he is also attracted to Sophie. So this is their love story. Very great read. I loved reading this book, and this is the Badge of Honor Texas Heroes series, and this is number 8. You can read all of these books as standalones in the series, and I really loved this book, and I was looking forward to reading more in the series, as you will see. And I did end up reading several of the books in October. The next book I read was also for the Kindle Clear Out Readathon. This is the Midwinter Mail Order Bride by Katie Wilde. I rated this a 3 star. This is kind of like a take it or leave it type of book. I almost DNF'd it, but I kept on reading because it was part of my readathon, so I did not want to DNF it. This is about Anja and Kel the Conqueror. Anja is from this other kingdom or territory, and she goes to be Kel the Conqueror's wife because she wants to be queen, and he sends her back home. And then he goes with her, and they kind of like fall in love on the way. It was okay, not my favorite, not the worst either, just an okay read. Then the next book was Unstitched by Jackie Underdown. This was also another book that I read for the Kindle Clear Out Readathon. I also rated this 3 stars. I did not particularly enjoy it. This is about Thea and Lucas. They realize that, you know, she has been dreaming of this, like her soulmate. Except she doesn't know what he looks like. She just knows that there's somebody out there for her. And then Lucas comes along, and he tells her that, you know, they're meant to be together. there is like time traveling in this book, which kind of really threw the story off. I don't know, this story just, it didn't make, it made sense, but it just didn't make sense. Whereas like the story just, nothing seemed like it went together, and so I just rated this a 3-star. And then that was the end of the readathon, so I went ahead and continued on in the Texas Heroes Badge of Honor series, or it's actually Badge of Honor Texas Hero series, because I liked the Shelter for Sophie so much. So I wanted to continue on reading in that series, so I picked up Shelter for Sophie by Susan Stoker. This is number 5 in that series. This follows Elizabeth and Cade. Elizabeth had been previously kidnapped, and she had been tortured and raped by this kidnapper. And they rescued her, and now she has been living her life. She has a condition, I forget what it's called, where she can't leave her house. If she does, she leaves sometimes with her friend that she met from therapy. She, just has to hold her hand, and she's terrified, and she's like a computer hacker. That's what she does for her job. So she does it from home, and she meets Cade. He's a firefighter when she's trying to cook, and she's trying to make fried chicken, and she has like a grease fire in her kitchen, so they come to put it out, and that's where they meet. And lo and behold, her friend that she has from therapy is actually Cade's sister, so they have a common denominator. And Cade is very interested in Elizabeth, and even though she can hardly leave her home, he is still very intrigued with her. And this is their story. It was wonderful, and I rated it 5 stars. And the next one I read is Justice for Mackenzie. This is number 1 in the Badge of Honor Texas Hero series. This follows Mackenzie and Daxton. Mackenzie is a girl that Daxton met. Daxton is a Texas Ranger, and he he met Mackenzie at some type of event she hosted. It was like in a charity event, and then she is pulled over by a cop when Daxton is riding with him, and he said, "I want that girl's phone number." So that's how he gets her phone number, because she was speeding. And then he calls her up and asks her on a date, and she accepts, and they go from there. And then, of course, each of these books, something happens to the girl. The guy has to come rescue her. So, but they're not like helpless girls. They're very strong, independent women. And I loved what went down in this book. She was actually kidnapped by a killer, and he has to go rescue her. And it was a lot of action, a lot of drama. And I love this book, and I rated it 5 stars. The next one I read is Justice for Corey. This is number 3 in that series. This follows Corey and Quint. Quint is a police officer, and Corey is blind, and they meet, and he is, of course, very attracted to her, and he has to learn pretty much how she leads her life. A lot of people just think she's helpless because she's blind, but with her, with like technology and things that she uses in her life to make her life where she can live it just as anybody else. And so he comes to learn that, and he begins dating her. Of course, more drama happens in this book. He has to rescue her. So I still love this book. It was, I rated it 5 stars. Then I read Hefty by Jessica Kane. I rated this one 4 stars. I saw where Bree from In Love and Words had read it, and I had never read a Jessica Kane book before, so I decided to read this one. This is about like an overweight guy, and they're in high school, and he has been in love with his sister's best friend forever, and they eventually, and she's been in love with him. They've both been in love with each other, but they just have never told either one about it. And this is a novella. That's the only reason I rated it a 4 star instead of 5, is because novellas are just Of course, you can only pack so much into a shorter story, but what this story accomplished, but this story really was great. I loved how they were both pining for each other, and then they, you know, once they realized that they were both in love with each other, and it was just wonderful. And I loved the plus size hero because you don't ever hardly see that in books, and that's what really drew me to this story in the first place. And I'm really glad that I read it. Then I continued on in the Badge of Honor Texas Hero series again. The next one I read is Shelter for Adeline. This is number 7. This follows Adeline and Dean. Adeline suffers from seizures. She has epilepsy, I think it was. And so she has a dog, like, for he can alert to when she's about to have a seizure. And the book starts off where she's on this date with this guy, and her dog alerts that she's going to have a seizure. And so she asks him to help her get someplace safe to where, you know, when she has a seizure. And he pretty much says, you know, I'm out of here, bye, and leaves her in the restaurant. And there is a firefighter there, and he kind of sees that something's wrong. And she tells him that she's about to have a seizure, so he takes her across the street to the fire station. And he is very, you know, he helps her through it, and then he's very intrigued with her, and so they begin to date. And this was a fantastic story. Of course, there's more action and drama in it in every single one of these books, and I rated it 5 stars. And then the last book I read in the Badge of Honor Texas Hero series for the month was Justice for Lane. This is number 4, and I rated it 5 stars as well. This follows Lane and Weston. Lane is she's the best friend of, let's see, Mackenzie. Yeah, the Justice for Mackenzie that I had read previously. This is her best friend, Lane, and she goes to be, Mackenzie was wanting her to go along because they were doing a photo shoot for like this, they're doing a calendar of cops for charity, and they were going to be going out to the ranch of this Texas Ranger named Weston, and Mackenzie wanted her to go along with her. Well, things happened where Mackenzie couldn't go, so Lane still went, and she and Weston had instant attraction to each other, and this was their story. This was a little bit shorter book, but it was still very good. He does have to rescue her again in this book. She actually falls into a well on this abandoned property, and so yeah, very good. I loved all the books in this series. The next book I read is Frayed Silk by Ella Fields. This follows Dahlia and Leo. They have been having marriage problems for the past several months. He has pretty much just shut down, and he will not talk to her. He will not have pretty much anything to do with his wife. He still has some things to do with his kids, but he is pretty much just kind of given up on their marriage, and she doesn't understand what happened. And finally she's to the point of where she can't take it anymore. She feels like she has lost her husband. Like he's there in body, but he's not there in spirit. And so she tells him he wants a divorce, and of course he refuses. And then she meets this guy. She's like a stay-at-home mom, but she does some volunteering at this food bank, and this younger guy named Jared, he has always been interested in her, and so she starts to hang out with him because she feels so alone at home. And there is cheating involved in this book, so if you don't like that, don't read this book. But this was such a good story. This is about marriage, people in this marriage having troubles and trying to overcome them, and even though terrible things happen, that you can still come back together and find your love again. It was so wonderful. I don't want to spoil the ending, so I won't say anything else about it, but it was wonderful, and I rated it 5 stars. The next book I read is Jesse's Smile by Angelique Jerd. This follows Jesse and Drew. This is a male-male romance. Drew is a high school teacher, and he comes to this pet store after he acquires this kitten, and Jesse works there, and Jesse is on the autism spectrum, and most people make fun of him, but Drew automatically, likes him. He's very nice to him, and they form, well, he forms pretty much an instant attraction to him, and they go on a date together. And in this book, they get together romantically, in a relationship pretty early on. And so most of this book is them figuring out their relationship, with Drew not being on the autism spectrum and Jesse is on the autism spectrum, and what challenges comes with in a relationship that's like that. This was an amazing love story. I loved it so much. Both of the characters were so sweet, so caring. I loved how Drew just accepted Jesse for who he was, even though he has these challenges that he faces every single day. He just loves him for who he is, and Jesse finds the love of his life. People have always used him, and pretty much the only people in the world who care for him are his parents, and now he has, Drew in his life, and it was just such a sweet book. I loved it so much, and I rated it 5 stars. The next book I read is The Necromancer's Bride by Brianna Hill. This is the first book I read by Brianna Hill. This I rated this one 4 stars. This is about a girl who, when she was little, she was about to die from this illness, and the necromancer comes in and saves her life. And then later on, when she's grown, this illness comes back to their village. She goes to the necromancer to ask them to save their lives. And this is a love story between her and the necromancer. So it was very interesting. I rated it 4 stars because of how kind of odd or different this book was than anything I've ever read before. It was definitely different, but I did enjoy it. Then I read Blindfall by Amanda Milo. This is the number 5 in the Stolen by an Alien series. This follows Sana in Breslin. Sana is a human girl who has been kidnapped from Earth by aliens, and she is blind, and she has her dog Coda, her seeing eye dog, and she is sold in this auction, and Breslin's best friend actually buys her for him, and he takes her back to his farm because he's planning on sending her back to Earth because that's what she wants to do. But they have to wait until there's a ship returning to Earth, and so she stays with him at his farm until that happens, and they fall in love with each other. And so this was a very cute story about a human girl falling in love with an alien, which that I like those since I've read so many of Ruby Dixon alien romances. So I really enjoyed this one, and I rated it 5 stars. And the next one I read is One Moment Please by Amy Dawes. This is number 3 in the Wait With Me series. This follows Lindsay and Josh. Lindsay meets Josh. She's actually working on her thesis, and the only place she has inspiration is in the hospital cafeteria, and plus she loves the pie they make there. And she finishes her thesis, and he comes over to talk to her, to pretty much ask her why she has been coming to the hospital cafeteria every day. And he's kind of a total douchebag to her, and she actually has a nickname for him, Dr. Dick. And then she meets him at a bar. One of her friends brings a friend along, which brings him to the bar, so they have a one-night stand. And then later on, I think it was 3 months later, she goes to the emergency room because she sprained her ankle. And he is the doctor, working the ER room. So he sees her. They perform, tests on her and blood work, and come to find out she's pregnant, and the last guy she had sex with was him. So now they are expecting a child. And so it was a really cute, it was really funny. Just, can you imagine being in that type of situation? And she agrees to live with him, and they are interacting with each other every day. And he is very aloof and just broody, and he is sweet to her, but he just doesn't feel like he can love because something kind of terrible happened in his past. And then when he realizes that he can't live without her and that he is in love with her, it is so sweet. I really enjoyed this book, and I rated it 5 stars. The next book I read is Wait With Me by Amy Dawes. This is the first book in the Wait With Me series. This follows Kate and Miles. Kate is an erotic book author. She writes steamy novels, and she has just been having a mind block. She's just hasn't been able to write recently, and she finds inspiration when she is getting her tires worked on at this tire center. And they have like the customer care center, where they have like free coffee, free cookies, free refreshments. And she loves this place, and she finds every excuse she can. She's trying to bring in her brother's car and her friend's car, to try to. And so finally, when she doesn't have anybody else's car to bring in, she just starts sneaking in there every day to write. And Miles is a mechanic who works there, and he catches her because she's coming into the employee entrance. And so she kind of has to tell him what she's doing. Of course, they are attracted to each other. Miles has been out of this relationship where he was treated very wrongly, and so he is not really looking forward. He's not really looking to be in another relationship, but they start a friends with benefits type of situation, and then they realize later on that they want more. I rated this one 4 stars. Then I read Queen Takes Nights by Jolie Sue Burkhart. This is the #1 book in their Vampire Queen series. This follows Shara, I'm not really sure how they pronounce it in the story. But she has been running from monsters pretty much her whole life. They killed her mom and dad, and now she is running from them. They can smell her blood. And then just when she's about to be overcome by these monsters, when they find her, these 2 vampires, which, she didn't know at that moment, but these 2 guys come up and say, well, you're our queen, and we are here to rescue you and to protect you. And she is just like, what the crap? So she discovers who she actually is. She's actually a vampire queen, and she didn't even know anything about this world. Her mother never told her anything, even though her mother used to be a vampire queen herself. She raised her daughter in the, human mortal world. And so now she is queen, and these 2 guys are her first blood. That's what they're called. And it is very this series is very steamy, has a lot of blood. They do, of course, they drink from her, she drinks from them, and there's just a lot. These books are very bloody, so if you don't like that, don't read these. But I really enjoyed this. I haven't read a vampire book in so long, and so these were really good. I rated the first one 5 stars, and then I read the second one, which is Queen Takes King. This just follows their story, because she is supposed to be taking more blood. The more blood she has, they, protect her. And so she keeps having like these dreams where she needs to rescue this king. who has been like cursed as a dragon for, you know, centuries. And so she has to go and rescue him, and so it just continues on in their story. I rated that one 5 stars. And then I read the third one, which is Queen Takes Queen. I rated this one 5 stars as well. This is where she has cerebral blood now, and she is invited to go to this other queen's, you know, her nest. That's what they call, you know, like their territories. And she is invited to go there because it is like a weaker queen who wants to, you know, become allied with her. And so she kind of, that is where that book leads. Also rated it 5 stars. I really enjoyed the series, and I want to continue on. I know there's several more books in the series, so an excellent series. The next book I read is Anarchy at Prescott High by C.M. Stunage. This is number 4 in the Havoc Boys series. I have been waiting for each book to come out. Ever since Havoc came out, which was the first book, I have been waiting for each one to release. And the 4th one just released, and I was so excited, so I had to immediately read it. This follows Bernadette and her. This is a reverse harem, so there's Aaron, Victor, Oscar, Callum, and Hell. So those are the 5 guys that she has in her harem, and this is a great series. It starts out as kind of like a bully romance, but then she, as the series progresses in each book, she realizes that what they did was for her, not for her own good, but to like, they were trying to keep her away from their life because they wanted better for her. But she ended up in their life anyway, and now they love her. They do everything they do for her. And in each book, there is tons of action, just things happening all the time. And I love how much they love her. And I just love this book, this series so much. And I love this book and the series. I rated it 5 stars, of course, and I cannot wait until the last book comes out in November. And the last book I read for October is The Power of Hades. I began the Paranormal Romance Readathon, and I read this one for the first book in the readathon. This is The Power of Hades by Eliza Rain. This is the first book in the Hades trials. And this follows Persephone and Hades. Persephone is a girl living on Earth in the mortal world. She doesn't remember her past life at all because something happened to where she was kind of banished to live on Earth. And Zeus kidnaps her because he is holding these trials for Hades, to find Hades' new wife. And she learns that she used to be Hades' wife, you know, in her previous life. But so she's trying to figure out, you know, what happened. And now she's in this, you know, the underworld with Hades, and she's in these trials to compete to become his wife. She just wants to go back to Earth because she was in school. She loves to grow things. She hates being where everything is dead. But she has this insane attraction to Hades, and because, you know, his eyes, he doesn't really show his form a lot, but she sees his eyes, and she has a feeling that, you know, she knows she has known him in her past life. So that is where the first book left off. There are more books in that series that I do want to get to, but I am in the middle of the readathon, and so I can't read them just yet, but I do want to continue on in the series, and I rated it 5 stars. So those are all 20 books that I read for October. Let me know what you read for October, and if you've read any of these books, let me know how you liked them. So I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!